Hello and welcome to Portsmouth This Week. I'm your host, Conley Zani. This show is under the auspices of Rich Rayner, our Portsmouth Town Administrator. Together, Rich, myself, and the entire Portsmouth This Week team are on a mission to build community. We do that by bringing you accurate and timely information about the issues that are relevant to you. We introduce you to the faces, the personalities, the leaders in this town that make up the fabric of this beautiful place that we live. I am honored today to have Dr. Thomas Kenworthy, the superintendent of Portsmouth Schools. How are you?
Very good.
Welcome, Tom. Last time you were on the show, like you're an old pro now, it was nearly maybe a year ago, and we were going into a we were asking the voters to approve a bond for the school facilities, and I feel like I should have brought champagne to celebrate, or maybe you've been celebrating for a whole year now. I mean, congratulations, right? This must feel very good.
Yeah.
So let's start with talking about that bond, and now here we are a year later. Can you just kind of refresh me and everybody about what it was that got approved, actually?
Sure. So when I was on about this time last year, it was to promote the bond in the special election. We had a $21.4 million bond to finance health and safety improvements in all 4 of our Portsmouth schools. So that did pass overwhelmingly by a 2/3 majority in a November election. We were very pleased. A lot of hard work on behalf of many, many people, not just myself,
you were a little
obviously.
surprised that it was a 2/3 majority. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, we were obviously, very optimistic it was going to pass, but by that majority, the last time there had been a separate school bond initiative was in 2004 for the field house, which most people call the new gym at Portsmouth High School, and that, from my understanding, that took multiple times to pass. So we were
just by a thin margin. So well, I mean, I think people love our schools. I mean, we're so proud of our schools here in Portsmouth, and thanks for being the leader in charge there. So what are the elements of the bond that?
Yep, so ours, and you're seeing so many districts taking advantage now of the money that the state made available. There's actually going to be another, I believe, bond on this November to help more districts. So in our case, after many years of work that went into trying to figure out what was going to be best for our district, we settled on health and safety improvements for all 4 of our schools. Yeah. So this past summer, in summer of 2022, we completed all the asbestos removal work in each of our schools. So there was
super sexy stuff, right?
I know, we got that one out of the way first. That's been, as many people in Rhode Island, are decades-long work in all buildings, but certainly school buildings. So we had a little bit of that work left to do, and we that was one of the projects that would qualify. So we used this for money for that, and we finished that in each of our schools. This summer coming up, we're going to start the bathroom renovations, which are the common project in each of our schools. So this summer, that work will start taking place in Hathaway, Melville, and Portsmouth High School.
Okay. And what is that about? Just kind of upgrading, making them more ADA accessible?
All of the above. So it'll be, the main bathrooms that are used in each school. They're particularly the middle and high school have a lot of different bathrooms. So we're not going to be able to hit everyone. We wanted to spread the money out a little bit as much as we could, but we're doing all the main bathrooms. In some cases, multiple sets in each of our buildings. So that'll start at, again, Hathaway, Melville, and the high school this summer, and then the HVAC system will be upgraded in the field house at the high school, and that will include full air conditioning. And then
they're going to be so excited about that, right?
And upgrades to Memorial Drive. That's the one way that leads into the high school from Turnpike Ave, and so that road is in dire need of repair and improvement, so it's going to get that.
Is
and
it
be
getting
widened,
wider?
Yeah, and widened, and
Okay, so it'll feel a little safer, I think.
a little safer, additional parking spaces, so it'll be a win-win for everyone. And
I'm a mom of 2 high schoolers right now, and when I go pick them up, kind of
you know that road well.
shooting the gaps there, waiting for a teenager to jump out in front of me, you know?
Right, so we're gonna definitely try to make that a little
When
safer.
is that going to happen?
So those are all the projects for next summer of 2023.
Okay, all right.
And then the last one's the roof replacement at Melville School. Summer of 2024, the last projects then will be the HVAC upgrades that'll be full upgrades at Hathaway and Melville. Our 2 elementary schools will get new systems there, which will include full air conditioning, an elevator at Hathaway, and then the bathrooms at Portsmouth Middle School. So we needed to keep one school operational each summer in order to be able to have our summer programs.
Well, of all of these projects, do you have a favorite? Do you have one that you're like, oh, I cannot wait to be done?
Yeah, I think the full air conditioning of Hathaway and Melville will be nice. I know all of our schools could definitely use it. Again, in the $21.4 million project, there was only so much money to go around, so we picked those 2 schools. Hopefully we can come up with something for the middle and high school at a later date, but I think that'll be a great improvement.
Well, that is great. How much of your time are you spending kind of managing all of this?
Yeah. So, luckily I don't have to do that alone. We have a district building committee, which is a requirement for this kind of work, and particularly when you bond for it as well. So that's made up of many other representatives from the school department and on the town side, and we have community representatives, and we're meeting monthly, and we'll just continue to do that for the next few years. And I think in any day and age, it's challenging work trying to make sure there's a lot of different steps, as you can imagine, making sure all these projects stay on schedule. But as everyone knows, we've got supply chain issues now, and the inflation rate is driving up costs every time we look at an estimate. So
I know it's scary, isn't it?
It is. So
and then you also want to be transparent to the public about what's going on with all these funds, and I'm sure we'll have a bunch of people weighing in on everything from paint colors to where's that dollar going and everything. So I do not envy your position, but I'm so glad you're helping push this forward. It's very exciting.
It is. It'll be great when it's all complete in a few years.
Yeah. So hey, speaking of the team, I understand you've got at least one new hire, maybe a few. Tell us about
we have a lot
that.
of new hires, certainly throughout the district. It's probably, in the years I've been in the district since 2014, a record number of new hires, as every district is experiencing, with a lot of people coming and going for various reasons. But on our leadership team, which is what I believe you're referring to, we welcome 2 key players there. So our Director of Student Services, which oversees special education. That's how most people know that role. Yeah. We were pleased to be able to welcome Charity Shea back to the district. So she had been a long-time teacher with us, special educator, and left for a little while, was in this same role as director in another district, and we were able to get her to come back home here to Portsmouth. So
I have heard of her and heard how fantastic she is.
She's doing a great job.
All right, great. Where was she? She was over on the East Bay?
Yeah, she was in South Kingstown as director there.
And we're lucky to get her.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
And then at the high school, we have a new principal, Dr. Vanessa Reel, longtime educator from mostly Connecticut and a little bit Massachusetts, had never worked in Rhode Island but moved to the area. So we're very pleased to have her on board there. As well, doing a great job, and few other new hires on her administrative team. So things are going.
That is fantastic. All right, well, great. So let's talk a little about the strategic plan, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And maybe you can share with all of our viewers about how that's created. Who's devising that, and just
sure. So every district has to have a strategic plan that guides its operations and all the work that's being done around common goals that everybody should be aware of, and that feed down from the district level to each of our schools. So Typically, that's updated every 5 years or so. And,
Okay.
there's a process that we went through. We did this, the work was completed in 2019, so we had spent about a year and a half of building a lot of, community support, getting feedback, came up with this great plan, which is still a great plan, but then as you know, COVID came along and disrupted the last few school years that we've had. So
That's an understatement, right?
So one of the things that the school committee tasked me with this summer was, putting a team together, going through that plan. So we didn't really revise any of the key goals, which in our plan are called priority areas. So not any major revisions to the goals and the outcomes that we're trying to achieve. But I sat down this summer with the team and just went through and, based on the experiences that we had coming off of COVID and where we knew we were, just making sure that, there were a few minor tweaks that needed to be made. And then when I presented that to the school committee at the last meeting, they took an official vote to basically extend our plan for one additional year beyond what we originally had intended in 2019. So whereas typically that would have been a 5-year plan expiring in 2024, it'll expire now at the end of the 2025 school year.
Because we all kind of had to take a little break.
Wasn't much of a break
well, it
for
didn't
us,
feel
right?
like it did not feel like a break, but as far as pushing on those priorities.
Yeah.
Well, so the school committee just met this week, right?
They met, yes, it was this week. So I have to get my week straight sometimes.
It's all a blur, right?
But, this past Tuesday. So they took the final vote on that. So
Okay.
we'll, and it's already, I believe, the revised plan up on our website.
Okay. Can you? This is no quiz or test, even though you are, in education. But do you know the big elements, the big priorities
of
that plan?
Sure.
Can you just rattle them off?
I can probably do it in my sleep. Yeah. So,
in your sleep, I love it. Okay.
So our first priority area, which then has other initiatives and outcomes, to work toward that goal, is around academic rigor, increasing academic rigor for students to produce better outcomes. Right. It's all about making sure students graduate from high school, college, and career ready. You've probably heard that phrase before, but that it doesn't just happen in high school or over the course of a few years. It's really the culmination of all the experiences that the students have had, throughout their academic career. So our first goal is around that and just making sure that we're focused on the right things there and producing the right outcomes. Second goal is around social emotional learning, right? Very important, and particularly now coming out of the pandemic. Just making sure we have the proper supports in place there for students.
What are you seeing as you look at our schools? Have we taken some steps back on that? And that's no fault of anyone's. It's just the pandemic.
Yeah, on the social emotional side, particularly.
Maybe on the academics too, right?
Yeah. So I'll take both of those. So I mean, academics. Certainly, right? We know we didn't see the same results last spring when students took, for the first time, now we had to make sure that all students took the state assessment. So we should be getting those results in a few weeks, and I think everybody's anticipating, right, we're gonna see results that maybe aren't typical that we've been used to seeing. But one of the things that we're going to try to make sure is we're going to go back to that spring of 2019 year, because that would have been the last
kind of the baseline.
Baseline, that's the baseline now, right? That's before, the pandemic hit, and the last year that we know all students in all grades took the state assessments they were supposed to take. So, we've been kind of transitioning back to that, and so those results now from last spring will be the first time that we can assure that all students took those results again. So, again, we'll expect to, that the results will show we have work we still need to do to
well, it's across the
back.
Nation, right? I think I just read something in the New York Times about just like the academics and everything. Just it's widespread.
So it's making sure you have the proper supports there, but then on the social emotional side, like you said, it's making sure that we have enough staff to support those areas, and things in place to support students.
And we need to support the staff too.
And the staff, I was going to say. So we're certainly seeing some increased needs among students, but I think the other piece that's being lost right now, and I'm glad that you mentioned, is staff, and we have to make sure the adults are okay too. And it's been a tough few years for everyone.
Yeah, like what we asked of our teachers was unbelievable.
it was.
Yeah, so I'm sure you're seeing some attrition because of that, right?
Yeah, this summer, and we mirrored in talking with other superintendents what was happening in a lot of places. Like I was mentioning, we had a record number of new hires. And it was interesting. We saw it happen to us. We had veteran staff members that had been with us for a long time who, decided to take a job somewhere else, came in to see me to let me know, saying, listen, I love working in Portsmouth. It's a great, great community, but I live here in whatever community, and this is a job closer to home. So those types of things, quality of life tended to be driving people. And we saw it on the other end. I think we, hired some veteran teachers from other districts who either happened to live in Portsmouth or, next door in one of the other communities.
Yeah, and I think that's a phenomenon also happening outside of education too, right? Everybody's just kind of taking a hard look at how they're working, where they're working, what they're doing, what their passions are, and
into those industries where you can't work from home. Obviously, education, we need people on the ground, right, working with students. So I think people are trying to work as close to home as they can.
Yeah. All right, so I think I interrupted your awesome flow of all your priorities around the academics, the social, emotional.
So we had the academic rigor, social, emotional learning. The third priority area is around professional development for staff. So just making sure that we have all of those pieces in place for our staff. Always important for us, but particularly now in what we're trying to do, recovering from the pandemic.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, that makes me go, what is that? What are the things, like when you say professional development, like what is the focus for just broadly?
Yeah. So I would say right now our biggest focus this year for professional development, and there's a lot of other little pieces, obviously that come up, but our biggest focus is around high quality curriculum. That's it's a term that sounds great, but it's also a specific term that's used in education. So the Department of Education, we are required now, and there's also the General Assembly passed legislation around it. We have to make sure we've been given a timeline, and in each one of our key academic areas, math, ELA, science, social studies, every area, we have to make sure we're using high quality curriculum, and there's only certain curriculum resources that meet that definition. So with that, we got to make sure that we purchase those high quality curriculums, but where there are changes for teachers, sometimes we have to make sure we're providing the professional development.
The training and everything.
Yes.
Oh, wow. All right. Okay, what else? Anything else?
So the fourth goal is around communication. So always important, and just making sure we are, communicating effectively both from the school and district level, and, taking the opportunity every so often to, survey and get a feel for if we can improve in that area, and what are the different ways people, or how frequently they would like us to communicate.
Yeah.
And then the last one is around ensuring that we have, 21st century facilities to support teaching and learning. Basically, it's all.
And hey, with this bond, you're well on your way, right?
That's the one that definitely connects to the bond.
Oh, that is awesome. So out of this plan, I'm sure there are very specific goals that you are given,
Correct.
Like your professional goals. Are they much different from that, or you?
Well, they're not different, because what the school committee does is, and this is again typical in every district, we use there's a similar evaluation tool, if you will, that's used for superintendents. So from there, the school committee picks 3 goals that they want me to focus on specifically. They all connect back to the strategic plan.
Of course, yeah.
The things that we just talked about, though. So
this is what keeps you up at night, right here. What is it?
I don't know if this particular thing keeps me up at night, but because I have a lot of great people in the district that support the work. But so my goals for this year that the school committee approved and connected back to the strategic plan. The first one is connected to that academic rigor, ensuring all students graduate college and career ready. So it deals with the high quality curriculum that I mentioned, and making sure that that's being implemented on schedule. And then making sure that we're ready when we take the assessments when students take the assessments this spring, that we've completed that kind of analysis back to the spring of 2019.
Yeah.
And we know that's
Yes, you can really
where we're not
benchmark
caught
that.
up. Correct. Where we're not caught up, then those are the areas that we know we need to focus on. Second goal is related to just making sure it's work that we started last year, but also with the transition with Charity coming in as our Director of Student Services, just making sure that everything under that student service umbrella has been reviewed and updated. So last year we had started this work of just making sure, whether it's information on our website or information that families are given through the special education, let's say, process, right, can be a new experience for some families. They're getting a lot of information handed to them in meetings, so we want to make sure that's in the most family-friendly format to understand, and that we have opportunities built in for families to be able to ask questions, engage with us, that kind of thing. So there's going to be some additional surveying and focus groups taking place around that.
What are the biggest challenges? Is it really just understanding the needs, or?
Well, for special education particularly, but really everything that leads up to it through what we call that our MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support process. So it's technically separate from special ed, but there's a lot of overlap because it leads up to the point where we may decide that a student may qualify for special education services. So there's a lot in there tied into state and federal law, right? And we have to make sure we're complying with it as a district. So we need to make sure families are understanding why we're doing certain things and why we're doing them certain ways, and so
it's complex. There's a huge communication challenge.
So we're just trying to make sure that all of that has been reviewed, and we've got input from our families, and how can we provide that information or communicate it better.
All right. Wow.
And then my third goal for this year from the school committee, which will again just kind of permeate down to every school level as well, is around the facilities, right? So making sure that
we're on track.
We stay on schedule with the bond projects, but the other key piece of my goal related to that is around making sure that we review everything for safety and security upgrades and where they need to be made. So we've started that work as well last spring. We did a comprehensive review with our Portsmouth Police Department, who's a great partner with us in that work, and we have a lot of
You've got Chief Peters
ideas.
on speed dial, huh?
I do, yes. We communicate several times a week.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think that's what everybody wants to see happening,
Yeah, no, it's one of the great things about Portsmouth. I mean, whether it's Chief Peters on the police side, Chief Ford on the fire side, I can pick up the phone anytime and get one of them. So
yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, so you mentioned a lot of surveys, right? We've got more surveys coming, but there's been some that you've just done, right?
Some I'm ready to launch. So
okay. Well, so can we talk about that?
And these are separate from all of people are going to be on a little bit of families and staff on a little bit of survey overload. So we apologize for that, but.
But you need them to take this
this particular initiative I'm going to mention was already in place. So, so every spring, our families and our staff, but also students. We're not going to include students in the work we're going to do. Is it just because they have enough other things going on? But
they're busy.
Yeah, not that families and staff aren't. But we every spring we take these surveys that are put out by the state called Survey Works, and they're stakeholder surveys basically. So there's a family survey, a staff survey, and as I mentioned, there's a student survey as well. But that's kind of a one-time thing each year. We don't get the results back to the end of a school year. We spend a lot of time looking at it and try to factor in the feedback we're getting from families. But one of the things we're going to do this year for families and staff particularly is survey them shorter. So they'll be happy about that. They're designed to be maybe 10, 15 minutes at most, but multiple times throughout the year. So fall, winter, and spring.
Okay.
We're going with the same company that produces the Survey Works survey for the Department of Ed, so that the format and the questions will look similar.
Okay.
But families
more touch points.
should expect to see some more information on that. So we're going to call them pulse surveys. So that's the concept where you
Right,
kind of
just sort of take a pulse.
taking a pulse every once in a while. We're not waiting till we get that survey works.
Do most families participate, or?
We do. We have we have a good number in our participation rates, all around family, staff, and students, on survey works.
Can you give me an example of like something that you and your team saw in a survey that was surprising, or maybe not surprising, but that you were like, we need to act on this?
Yeah.
Like, so that we link it to like what happens with this information?
So I think safety is a great example, right? So we talked about safety already, and improvements that we're trying to make to make sure, because that's where it really all begins and ends. We can't have students and staff coming to school if they don't feel safe. Everything else builds off of that. So all of the survey work, stakeholder surveys, whether it be for family, staff, students, there's a section where they're asking questions, trying to get at, do you feel safe? Are there improvements that you think your school can make? That kind of thing. So the pulse surveys that'll be going out to families and staff will include some questions on that. Again, it'll give us those multiple checkpoints throughout the year. I'll be able to sit down with principals when I have meetings with them and review that.
Yeah, so it's all, there's a high school one, a middle school, all of that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Wow. Lots of input you are getting from everybody. That's wonderful. Well, so we just have a couple of minutes left, and maybe we can just sort of pivot to like, how do you, with all of these responsibilities and all of this input, stay energized and on top of your game?
Yeah.
Like, what's that look like for you? I understand you actually teach a class. What is it?
I do at
Johnson
the
House?
college level, yeah. So it's something I've just done, for probably 10 years or more, since the time I finished my doctorate. I've taught a few different places locally at colleges. Currently, though, I can only do one of these at a time.
Oh, I'm sure.
Right now, so I teach a course in the spring in the Johnson & Wales doctoral program.
Yeah. What is it called?
It's called Teaching and Learning in Elementary and Secondary Education. So it's it's all about the curriculum, assessment, instruction pieces, and the students. They're adults and teachers or early career leaders. They're usually in that program because they want to be school leaders or enhance their skill set as school leaders. So it really kind of dives in and looks at those topics kind of on that school district leadership level.
That's fantastic. I am sure you have to stay way current on all the research and everything to be able to pull that off.
Yeah, and that's the benefit that I get from it. It keeps me focused on all of the current research and ideas that come out. So there's that certainly, and then just making sure I take care of myself too. So I'm a husband and a father, as well. So I got to make sure that I'm there for my family as much as possible, and kind of balance that with the work that I do, and just try to exercise, eat right. That's a little more challenging some weeks than it is than others, right?
So. Oh, I know, right? Isn't it just crazy?
Right.
Well, I tell you, the town of Portsmouth is so very lucky to have you and your leadership. So thank you. Thank you so much
Thank you for having me.
And I hope you'll come back on and keep us updated on all of the amazing progress. I cannot wait to see. Can't wait for the AC. Can't wait for the new bathrooms, Memorial Drive, all of it. It's just really, really exciting, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, my guest has been Dr. Thomas Kenworthy, the Superintendent of Portsmouth Public Schools. We're honored to have him. Please join us next time on Portsmouth This Week.